Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
Welcome everyone to another very special episode of Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello, hello.
Andy, I think we can finally call ourselves an actual podcast now, as today we have a very special episode where we have our second ever guest on today's show.
Yeah, it's, we got pretty lucky with our first one, but now that we've got our second one, and you could consider it a trend. We're not a flash in the pan or anything like that.
Right, we actually have a few episodes under our belt now, and our second guest kind of solidifies us. Well, she is the sports graphic designer for Panther City, along with the Dallas Wings and UT Arlington. She also does photography as well. Welcome to today's show, Abigail Rosenbaum. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. Really appreciate it.
No, that's awesome. We're very happy to have you on tonight. I guess to kick things off, kind of our first question is, are you originally from Texas, or what's kind of your journey to ending up in the state?
Yeah, so I am from here. I was born in Dallas, but grew up in Burleson, south of Fort Worth. Grew up there, and I've spent 24 years of my life, so most of my life here in Texas. So,
oh wow,
hometown gal.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
No, actually, I have family in Burleson who live there right now. So, and they've been there for years and years. And my parents actually just moved down there about 4 or 5 years ago. So, it's a nice area. I've been down there very many times.
Yeah, any city that can produce the first American Idol winner, what's there to complain about?
Nice.
I know that's the one thing that they can hang their hat on. I mean, honestly, if you've been to Burleson in the last few years, which I mean, a lot of our fans are around Fort Worth area anyway, it really is a nice area, and it's up and coming still, even with their like downtown places, what they're putting in there and different restaurants and stuff. So
Yeah, population's about to, I think, push over 40,000 this year. So
Oh, wow.
well, there you go.
Nice. I mean, a nice size city. So we saw that you were a UT Arlington graduate in 2018 with a BFA in visual communications, and particularly in graphic design. We're wondering what kind of throughout your childhood and growing up, what led you to pursue this field, and in particular as it relates to kind of more athletic, active endeavors. Like we'll go into the things that you've done design work for in the future, but could you go into what kind of led you towards graphic design?
Yeah, so I would say I've always been like a artsy kid, Unfortunately, I was not one of those who can't draw, can't paint, not a sculptor kind of person. I put my best effort forward every time, but not my strong suit. And so I would say that kind of started it. I actually initially went to college, UTA, to get a film degree, and got partway through that and just realized it was not for me at all. Just wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And then, so I was like, what am I going to switch my degree program to? Looked at all the different options. I'm not a math person. I'm not a science person, not an English major, politics, anything like that. So I looked more closely at what was offered in the arts department and settled on the visual communications degree, which it's just graphic design. I always, whenever I tell people what my degree is, I say it's just a fancy word for graphic design.
It makes
because
it
they always
sound
think
better.
it's a communications degree. Yeah, and so did that, graduated with that in 2018, as mentioned. And in terms of getting into sports, towards the end, my last year, I did 2 different internships. One of them was my second to last semester in college. I interned with a sports media company that's based in Dallas and Toronto, worked with their Dallas branch. Thought it was interesting, wasn't quite what I wanted. Was still trying to figure out what my career was, just because I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew at least I was getting a degree, and then after that, I didn't quite have it figured out. And then I interned with FC Dallas my last semester of college, which, for anyone who doesn't know, that's our MLS pro soccer team in the area. And that got me hooked on the behind the scenes and everything that goes on with sports, and made me fall in love with it, and gave me a passion I didn't realize I had. Because even though I had played sports growing up, played sports maybe isn't quite the right word. I did long distance cycling, me and my dad.
Oh, that counts.
And I
Yeah.
raced very briefly in college. In middle school, I did pole vaulting, and in college, I did ultimate frisbee. So a very non-traditional sports path. I knew I enjoyed it. I've learned I'm not the most competitive person in those instances, which is why racing didn't work out for me. I was on the bike to have fun, not to race. And so that plus that internship just really sparked the interest in working in the sports industry.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, just kind of piggyback off of that because I had a question later on. I mean, was there during that time, was there like a project or something that you were working on that really just like flipped the switch for you and like was like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna enjoy this and this is what I want to do?
I would have to say it was the game day experience. Because I was in the office 3 days a week within game days on the fourth day occasionally. But that 3 days a week you're in the office, you're at a desk, you're working, there's not that much that goes on. And especially as an intern, you really only interact with your coworkers. You're not interacting with players, anything like that. Um, and so it was the game day experience that really told me it's what I wanted to do. It gave me the behind the scenes. I was set up in the press box every game, making live graphics, helping out with social, and then I was perusing the tweets that got sent up to the video boards. So things like that just really made me go, it was the behind the scenes for me.
That's awesome, actually. No, that's really cool. I mean, getting a chance to work with any sports team, I think is really awesome in itself. But well, can you explain? I mean, so you said you worked with or interned with FC Dallas. I mean, what got you started with Panther City, and how's that experience been so far?
Yeah. So when I had heard of Panther City because with last year being the inaugural year,
Hmm.
I was in the area. I heard about it and I was like, oh, that's really cool. At the time I was working with UTA athletics department. And so their games and everything, I wasn't able to coincide with home games and things like that to go work Panther City. Because as y'all know, college basketball is a big thing. And UTA is, fun fact, one of the two public universities in the state of Texas without a football team. So college basketball is what we went all in on. And so that just didn't really line up. So I wasn't able to go to any of the games of their inaugural season. But I knew that they were in the area. And then a job opened up with the Dallas Wings, and I saw that they were co-owners. And so it was initially going to go work with the Dallas Wings. A big proponent of women's sports in general. And then working on Panther City has actually been something I've really fallen in love with. I'm a big hockey fan, and you know what? There's a lot of overlap between the two. So
Right.
kind of how I ended up working for Panther City.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, we've talked about it in our show previously, like hockey influences, basketball influences. It kind of all mesh together, and that's why we enjoy box lacrosse, especially for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of speaking to the work that you do for the team, how do you come up with design content? And is it kind of more of, does it come out of your own mind? Is it a collaborative effort with team members? Does it trickle down from leadership saying, "Hey, I want this done a certain way," and y'all just kind of go and do that the best you can?
It may sound like a cop-out answer, but I would say it's a combination of all of them. So there's some projects where we get a lot more creative freedom. For example, I feel like the game day graphics and things like that really, and the Texas Forever stuff really speak to being given the creative freedom to just do whatever. So a lot of that'll come from my own brain, or it's very collaborative as well. Our office is one, or at least our portion of the office, which is the content team, social, a couple others. We are quite literally in one big room together. And so it's my desk. I'm next to our director of creative services. And then behind me, the two desks are Casey and our other social person, Kelsey. And they can see my screen all day, so they know what I'm working on. So sometimes they'll pitch in their ideas, or they'll put in a graphic request for what they need, and they know exactly what they want, or they're open to whatever. And then we have some stuff that's more of our marketing stuff that from the top down, they have more specific ideas of what they want that to look like. So they'll provide inspiration or very specific, hey, we want this player. This is obviously what text goes on it, things like that. So it kind of depends on the project, but overall, it's definitely sometimes it's random things in my brain that are woken up first thing in the morning. Oh, I got to write that down. And then other times it is someone from social throwing something at my desk to get my attention because they have headphones on and what they want me to design for them as well. So quite a variety.
Gotcha. Interesting. And kind of the social media posts in particular, just kind of curious since where I work now and then we're involved with the not on a creative level, but interacting with the graphic design team too. Are you working with basically a library of images of players to pull from if you have to like choose, hey, we want Daymute in this or Caputo or Malcolm? Do you have like different shots or images of them? They're like in-game action or professional photos that you're kind of mixing and choosing and splicing together?
Yeah, the NLL has a photographer at every game. So she does, so we get those photos that we have access to. And then we have photographer and videographer on staff who are also taking photos. And so they upload, we have two different sites that we use. So the NLL uploads to one that we can pull through from. And then our in-house, we have a site that we can pull from. And yeah, you just search their name and pops up. You pull the whatever photo you need. It shows everything for our entire season, so really easy to find a photo when needed.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Just thinking about how many pictures you probably have access to and have to go through. But well, I mean, talking about just like the game day experience too, especially with that. I mean, what would like a typical like work day, but also like a typical game day look for you as far as what you're juggling and everything? Because I've seen you out there and you're doing the pictures for different things as well, right?
Yeah. So a typical work day is very different from a typical game day. A work day is, we're in an office all day, and you come in at. I show up early because I get there a little bit earlier, just based on what my commute is from work or from home to the office. But I'm talking like 10, 15 minutes, like not significantly early. And it's come in, work on Panther City or Wings. We juggle between the two. Sometimes it's a pause in the middle of a Panther City graphic to work on something for Wings or vice versa. Some days are more one team specific. So on Monday this past week, or at least recently, we had the WNBA draft. And so like that day was a dedicated Wings day. Like I don't think I touched Panther City that day because we had so much going on that was necessary for the draft. And then here, as we've had the off season from the Dallas Wings, it's been more Panther City heavy because they're what's in season and that's what we're working towards. And so that's what a normal work day is, just switching back and forth between the two. In terms of game day, we get up, we have shoot around at Dickey's in the morning, do a little bit of content with that, and then usually I get a little bit of a break in the day just because I don't work with some of the community stuff as much during the day whenever we have those events at Dickey's. And then it's back at the arena. Say we have a 7:00 start. I'm back at the arena around 4, between 3:30 and 4, and getting everything set up for that night, getting the walk-ins for the guys. There, before the doors open, they have an on-field practice, so we get that content. And then they go back, and then we're, game starting. Game time content starts. When it comes to like during the game, I'm running around taking photos of the fans, sponsored elements, anything else that's happening. So that's usually, most people who've probably seen me have seen me running around with the camera in my hand.
Yeah.
Maybe walking. I think I've only run in the arena once, and that was a necessary thing.
You gotta get from point A to point B, for certain things. But yeah, no, I think that's the first time that you were like doing pictures, even like pregame for like announcements or like they were talking about certain sponsors or stuff like that. So
usually on the field for community champion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like at every game there's almost like a certain amount of people that you're always like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the photographer. Okay, Maggie's gonna interview someone, or the dancers doing their thing. It's like y'all are almost just as iconic as Prowler in some cases.
I would say Prowler's S tier though,
Oh yes. Yes. S tier for sure.
Mm-hmm. Good old Prowler. Well, okay, well, kind of speaking to your entire career so far, young as it is, you do have an extremely diverse portfolio, whether it be the Texas Forever jerseys, I know you worked on, I think, the Southland Conference tournament. You did that logo design as well as the court design. Did social media and other work for a small local bicycle shop in Arlington. And you also, when you moved back to Colorado for a little bit, you were working with the PBR, not Path Blue Ribbon, but the Professional Bull Riders Association. So these are all very, very different and cool projects. And I was wondering, this kind of might go into my previous question, but what would you say goes into your creative processes, a graphic designer or a photographer, or basically a creative mind?
Yeah. I guess in terms of, I guess not really the question asked, but contributing is it's definitely quite a varied portfolio. I will agree with you there. I've always joked that I've gone into every job not knowing anything about what I was doing, but having to learn on the fly.
Mhm.
My high school had a rodeo team, but that doesn't mean I know anything about bull riding. Whereas now, I can go to an event and guess what the score is within like a point or two for
Wow.
whatever it's going to be for bulls. Anything else, I don't have anything else in rodeo, but bull riding I can do. And it's just been one of those that the opportunity presents itself wherever it is. So in terms of the process, it's knowing what your brand is that you're working with and knowing what's going to do well in whatever market. If you take currently with Panther City and Dallas Wings, they have two very different brand identities, but it's still me and the director of creative services and our videos and photo, those two guys. We're a team of four. It's all of us. We have to still make sure those brands feel cohesive, despite them being very diverse, and knowing that the Texas Forever jersey, that's something that wouldn't work for Dallas Wings, just because that's not the identity that would go with it. And that if they did a Texas Forever night or style of things like that, it would have a very different look than what we did with Panther City.
Gotcha.
So I would definitely say knowing the brand and knowing the market.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, there's just with different identities for sure. But basketball fans and lacrosse fans almost are two different people sometimes. So, but no, I mean that's really awesome. Speaking of the Texas Forever like jerseys and stuff like that, and obviously the content you make for Panther City, has there been a favorite part or a favorite project that you worked on so far this year that you're like, oh man, that was totally awesome?
It was definitely, I feel like we talk about it so much, but it was such a height of my career was the Texas Forever night.
Hmm.
Everything about that came together amazing. The photo shoot that we did with those jerseys, I'm like I said, I'm a hometown gal. Stockyards is more my place than anywhere else, and so getting to do a photo shoot there was awesome. And then the truck that we used in the shoot was actually my truck. So that's my truck from high school, college. I still own it now. I've
Oh
been at my
wow.
parents' house. So getting
Nice.
to see that plus the jersey I designed, like if I could go back and tell high school me, middle school me, anything like that, like, hey, this thing that you have is just going to be come together and have its moment, and you're just not, you don't process that that's what it's going to be, and then coming to the game and seeing everybody so excited about it,
Yeah.
and then the home games since then, seeing people wearing those jerseys and just knowing that some of the things that we raised so much money auctioning off jerseys I designed,
Mhm.
and that money, the benefits it has, things like that, that Texas Forever is just one of those things that I never thought
Yeah.
could happen, and it happened, and now I don't know what's
You're
going to
like,
come after
what's the
that.
next step, right?
Yeah. The bar
Yeah.
is
Well,
set so high.
right. Well, and so if you don't mind, can you kind of, because honestly, when I saw the tees for those jerseys and I saw that they were going to be wearing them and then auctioning them off and everything, like my eyes lit up and I was like, man, if I have a chance to get a jersey, that's going to be the one I want to try to get. I mean, me and Andy both were like, we should try to get one
Yeah.
at least as far as we
Yeah.
can. Unfortunately, it got a little too
Yeah.
pricey on
Yeah.
a jersey head, but
I was in
uh,
the running for a little bit.
yeah, right. But no, do you mind going into that process? Is it, especially with that jersey, kind of like where you got the ideas from, and just kind of how that process worked into creating the Texas Forever jerseys?
Yeah. So, if y'all have read Donnie's blog, which if you haven't, I highly recommend to anybody, y'all or listeners. He writes one every week. He actually did a blog post that I didn't know that's what he was writing at the time, about kind of a little bit into how the Texas jerseys were made. But it quite literally started with a crayon drawing in that I was, I think in my first 2 weeks or something with the company, they were like, hey, we're going to design specialty jerseys this year. Here's a blank one. We want to do it for our Texas Forever night. Have at it. And I was like, okay, so I guess that's what I'm working on for the day because it was our off season for both teams. And the only thing we had in the office was pens, Sharpies, Expo markers, and crayons. And I really wanted color pencils, but crayons is what I got. And so I drew up like 3 or 4 designs, and that's where it started from, was just a Texas flag on the front. Had to take some convincing of those who are not from Texas that it is okay to change the colors of the Texas flag. That is a very Texan thing to do. We pulled a lot of colleges as examples. One of the biggest ones that we were able to use to convince was the UNT flag that they fly right by the highway. So that one really helped to like push forward. And so it started as just a crayon drawing on this printout back in October, maybe September, but started back then with this is what the idea is. The initial design got approved. It moved to digital, and it went through a few iterations digitally. In that the flag was originally purple, black, and white instead of what the purple, red, and white that it ended up being. I think actually one of the iterations was purple, black, and gray, since those are our Panther City colors, just as like trying to throw anything out to show all of our different options. And then initially from there, we went to red, white, and blue, just a traditional Texas flag, and then the purple, red, and white that it ended up being. And so that was very initial, and then pulling in everything, making it, hiding in all the little Easter eggs that I could that were Texas culture. I already knew a lot about Texas. I feel like I know even more now than what I thought I would ever know. And, you know, some refreshers on Texas history. So as long as my Texas history teachers from middle school aren't hearing this, I think we're okay. And then one thing that I feel is really underrated, just because the jerseys are awesome, we talk so much about them, but the shorts as well were custom designed. I did those as well. And so that one was very Fort Worth focused. It had the Fort Worth skyline, the same star pattern that was on the shoulders, and then Funky Town on one of the sides. So the whole process just literally was from crayon to piece of paper, printed piece of paper from my computer. And then the moment the jerseys showed up in the office, we had been waiting for them to get there because we knew about when they were showing up. And we had there was all the snow and ice and everything that was happening that kind of delayed them. So we were just constantly like, oh my God, are they going to get here? Are they not going to get here? What's going on? And they finally showed up in the office, and I was in the middle of a meeting, and someone called the person who was in charge of the meeting, was like, hey, the jerseys are here. The meeting just stopped. Like the whole day came to a complete halt when the jerseys showed up in the office. And so that was amazing. And I was lucky enough, thankfully, that everyone at the company is so amazing. They actually got me my own jersey.
Oh, nice.
So I wasn't anticipating that I'd get anything that I designed. So I got, somehow, I'm so excited I got one of the jerseys. So that's framed and not hung up on the wall yet, but it is framed. So
that was definitely one of the best like jerseys I've seen, period. I mean, alternate jerseys in the last, few years for sure from any team. Just because, again, like you said, it was very homegrown and had a lot of nods to Texas and Fort Worth and stuff. You're gonna hit all these side questions that I had that I had gotten from my friend. By the way, shout out to Josh Featherstone if he's listening out there. But no, he actually said like a good question to ask would be, what's your favorite Easter eggs that you put in there? And so you touched on that with the jerseys. What's some Easter eggs that we should look out for when you look at those?
So I don't think it made it to its final print, but there was the idea to have some teeny tiny little Texases hidden within the stars. Those didn't make the print because they were just a little too small. One is that the constellation or the stars is actually what the star pattern, like star chart, was for the night of March 4th when the game was played.
Wow.
Which it's a lot of little speckles, so no one's really going to notice that, but that's one of those. I feel like we highlighted it, but that the eyes on the cattle skulls, the longhorns, are red, like our Panther City logo had the red
Mhm.
eyes. I think we didn't put it out as well, but the eyes on the back of the jersey that are on the top piece are actually a play upon, as much as I'm a horns down kind of gal, or a play upon the eyes of Texas are upon you. So that's on the back.
I was about to say, yeah, you're talking to somebody who may or may not have went to Texas.
Maybe.
Hey, you know what? Not gonna hold that one against you, but also horns down.
It's okay. But we're the same system.
Right.
Yeah. Which I have more fun facts about UTA. I have so many random fun facts. When I was at UTA, I was an orientation leader, so I learned a lot about the university as well. That UTA is the only school in the state of Texas to be both in the UT and A&M education systems.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, for the Texas jersey, so those were a lot of the Easter eggs, and then the shorts being Funky Town. That's another name for Fort Worth, and learned a little bit more about the history as to why it's called Funky Town.
Mhm.
So things like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you probably worked on the Funky Town shirts as well then, right?
Oh, I did make those shirts. Yes.
Nice. Awesome.
It's the same. It's the Funky Town with the Fort Worth skyline as well. So
Great.
I actually
Very
have the
cool.
T-shirt over here.
Nice.
I wear that one though. That one's not framed.
Good.
Cool. Well, you might have already touched on this previously, just talking about how you have to really know the brand. But are there any similarities or differences in your creative process when you're covering different sports or activities, like the Wings versus Panther City versus bull riding or whatever have you, or even like a small company versus a collegiate or professional sports team?
There's definitely, I would say that you don't find a lot of similarities in terms of the brands themselves, but everything is going to be, you're going to have a player or a rider on it, in the instance of PBR. So that way you have your hero image, and usually trying to figure out if it's what rider it is, what player it is, things like that. Usually it's going to be the face of your franchise, but you always got to give love to everyone else. I know y'all do day mood appreciation. Shout out to Nikki on the
Yes.
graphic that went out today about our magic number.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, no,
but
that's literally like the one running joke I still keep going is David appreciation post.
I see you. I see that. I see it and try my best where I can. Um, so in that sense, the similarity is just in the process of how you create the graphic, but that each brand is different. And then yeah, going from working for PBR was operated more as a league office, just because that's really what it is, to college athletics, where all of us fit in a single hallway, which was kind of strange, to now with Wings Panther City, we're all on one. Well, right now we're separated in two floors because there's construction that's being done, but right now we're all on one floor. And so it's just, you don't realize how many people are in a company until you have one hallway and you know who everybody is and everyone knows who you are, to PBR, where I still don't know most of the people who are on the first floor and most of the people who are on the third floor either, just because they were different places. And there were people I never met working with PBR because they traveled for all of our events and I didn't travel at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all that kind of, it's always strange going into new things. You never know what you're going to get when you go to a new company. And that's not necessarily unique to the sports world. That's anything. But it's all very different, and it's all a learning experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's anything you get into, but it's how much you enjoy that learning experience that really counts. I mean, this is kind of aside from more not so much about the area that you work in, but I was just kind of curious. I mean, how has your experience been as far as the team itself this year, and what's your feelings overall about Panther City?
Yeah, I would say that the guys on the team are fantastic. It's a change of pace for me because with PBR we were based in Colorado and none of our riders were in Colorado. They were all throughout the United States and other countries. So I never met. I think I only met one rider because he randomly showed up at the office. And then to UTA, where in the athletics department, there's quite a separation between the student athletes and the workers, just for the reasons that, you want to make sure with NCAA guidelines and things like that, there's nothing to cause any problems. So really only saw them game days and photo shoots. And they knew who I was in the sense that I'm the girl with the camera, and the staffers knew me, the basketball managers, coaches, things like that. To now with Panther City, seeing the guys a lot more often. We have our 6 guys in market. So you see them in the office occasionally, or just at games that you see them Friday, Saturday, and get to know them and hang out with them and things like that. And I've actually done dog sitting for one of the guys in market. So things like that, where
Nice.
you have a different relationship with the players, that despite you still being coworkers, in that, you're still able to get to know them and know a little bit more about them, and take them to CVS when they have a sick kid after a game and things like that. So
Yeah, we've touched on it before, but it's just really kind of cool how like down to earth and homegrown Panther City, and it's just the league in general, but especially Panther City, it feels, to as compared to other sports teams in the area.
it's definitely a better, I think, accessibility to the players as a fan as well, in that the fan or the players always make time after the game to sign things. Whereas I've been to other events where I haven't experienced that as a casual fan who hasn't paid for like an elevated experience or anything like that. So I really feel that, you come to a game and you're getting more than just the game. You're getting the game day experience, you're getting the game. And, if you stick around a little bit longer and get over to that spot, you're able to meet the guys and things like that. And especially thinking what here we're doing for our last home game before we go into the postseason is we're doing for season ticket members on field signing with all the players and things like that. So something I haven't experienced is the accessibility that there is for fans to just get to know the players.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was lucky enough to attend the kind of meet and greet thing that they had at Lacrosse Unlimited over in Plano, and it was just crazy walking right into the store, which isn't a huge store, but just all of a sudden having all 5 guys just kind of that were there look at you, be like, hey, a fan, like welcome, everything, and have a nice chat that, like you said, you might not have with any other sports professional athlete. Just yeah, that accessibility is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and shout out Donnie. He's the one who arranged that whole event. He's works in the office with us in the marketing department.
Nice.
And he put that whole event together, and he killed it, I think.
No,
Yeah.
no, we were super happy to have him on our side of the DFW area. So yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know if I imagine you're usually pretty busy during the actual games, but do you have a favorite Panther City game this season? And piggybacking off of that, are there any favorite players of yours?
Yeah. I feel like I can't say the Texas Forever game because I've already said that's the height
I mean,
of my
you
career.
can. It's all
right. Other than that, I'd say that the home opener was fantastic. That was my first experience there.
Yeah.
And yes, very busy during games, but my parents come to every game and always make it up and always buy me some chicken tenders. So I make
Nice.
time during the game to go eat those chicken tenders and fries.
Nice.
I would say the chicken tenders, best thing on the Dickies menu. If no one has had them, you should definitely eat them. Not a paid sponsorship. Just maybe it should be. Those chicken tenders are pretty good for arena chicken tenders.
Yeah, right.
In terms of a favorite player, I don't think I personally have a favorite player just because I've enjoyed getting to meet them all. I can tell you that I've told him specifically too, my family really loves Nate Wade. I get texts every game about him, whether he's on the field or not. They're always asking me questions about him. And so he's a family favorite. And then Brooker is actually one of my brother's favorite players as well.
Oh, nice.
So my family has their own personal favorites, and I'm trying to be responsible and not have favorites.
No, that's funny. When at the Lacrosse Unlimited event, I told the guys, Phil Caputo, you're my wife's favorite player, and they were like, it's got to be the mustache. It's just so iconic.
I mean, yeah, between him and what we call him, teen heartthrob, Will Malcolm,
the boy band hair,
right?
Yeah,
90s boy band.
Yeah, we talked about that last episode when we tried to get his autograph at the end of last season, and just girls everywhere were like, "Oh my gosh!"
We weren't getting past them.
We're not. It was like, what are they called? Swifties. Whenever they just like mob a place, that's what it felt like. That's the closest thing I'd ever been to that.
What we call them, a Malks
Malkies.
squad. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they'll show up at the end of the season again. So you might want to watch out for that.
Hey, I get to tell people to move out of the way with the camera. So
Right. Hey, photographer here. I have to take pictures. Well, I guess for me, kind of like wrapping up my last few questions. Has there been something? Well, first of all, I mean, your posts, especially like your play on like what was that, the Philadelphia TV show? I love
It's
the
Always
play on
Sunny.
that. Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
sunny. I love that one. And then the Step Brothers, I think, was my other favorite one. Just seeing them hang out with each other, but like put it on the Step Brothers poster. But honestly, has there been something that you've worked on so far this season that maybe that didn't get finalized or didn't go through, but you're like, oh man, I really wish that didn't get scrapped?
I would say that those specific ones that you call were not ones they obviously made it to from point A to point B and that they got posted. And those were the designs that originated,
Mm-hmm.
which shout out Kelsey, our social media manager. Both of those were her idea. So I can't
Nice.
take credit for those. But there's a lot of graphics that they get one iteration and then they just never see the light of day. We trying to think of one specifically. We posted our magic number. That was not the first graphic design.
Okay.
So that one came out. I think that was second or third iteration of that graphic, and so that one got posted. We have some other graphics that haven't come out yet that they definitely had a few different iterations before they got made. I'm hoping one of them comes out this weekend. I think we know
Nice. Fingers
what
crossed.
graphic we're talking about. Fingers crossed.
Right.
So things like that, where it's almost everything will make the light of day at some point. Very rarely do they not, unless something doesn't go the way that we anticipate. In that I've previous jobs made championship graphics and then championships didn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
So things like that, where if anything doesn't go out to the public eye, it's more because just the events didn't fall into place where they should have. But for the most part, I'd say pretty much everything does. I definitely have some ideas that don't even get designed, which is probably for the best because they're not always good. A couple that didn't make it were the Valentine's Day graphics that we made that was puns on everyone's name. I think we only put out 4 puns, but I wrote 17 puns based on the players and gave them over to social media and said, you get to pick which ones you want. So that's my my unreleased that I'm a little sad about because I feel like I had some pretty solid ones, but
next season.
I was about to say
next season.
Everybody enjoys a good pun, especially on like Valentine's Day. Well, obviously you talked about like looking towards the future and everything. Is there one thing either with Panther City or even like Dallas Wings that you're looking forward to kind of in the future that you're like, I'm really excited to work on this?
I think I'm excited for the start of wing season. We have such a big build up to that. So for that to happen, I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. For Panther City, I really want to see these boys get the playoffs, the championships. I fully believe in them that they're going to make playoffs. And, anything after that, I fully believe that they can do once they get, as long as they're ready for it, it'll happen. And I'm very excited for that to happen. First in franchise history for a second-year team. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, and we were, you talked about even last season before you got on with them. I mean, we were in the hunt pretty late in the season still to try to get a playoff spot last season. So, I mean, I think that's really why Tracy Kolesky won Coach of the Year, and that's why we had kind of a good feeling going into this year that, hey, we could take that next step as a team.
Yeah, and I think the boys are just as ready and just as hungry for it to happen. Based on the very least talking with like you said, Donnie, who's in the office, and Pat Foley, who's also in the office. They're ready, they're hungry, they want it to happen just as bad as we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's believe me, like we're really fingers crossed hoping for this weekend to kind of get us that 10 wins and make sure everything falls into place for us to have that playoff game. I mean, obviously there's a lot that would have to happen for us to have a home playoff game. But hey, crazier things have happened, so you never know, and especially in sports, you just never know.
Got to tap that Ted Lasso believe sign, man.
Right?
Yep.
Actually, quick side note: I actually just saw the first two episodes of that show just the other night. So I know, I get a lot of slack from other friends and stuff like that. Like, why aren't you watching? I don't have enough time, and I don't have Apple TV, so I have to rely on other people to watch it. But no, yes, very very much true. I love it so far. A couple episodes in, not saying everybody that listens to this podcast should watch Ted Lasso, but yeah, you should watch Ted Lasso.
There's no shame. I definitely, working in sports, I got a lot of people telling me that I should watch it well before I watched it. I didn't actually see any of it until September of last year was the first time I watched any of it. So I can't shame you for just now watching it.
For finally trying to catch up. Yeah, no, I mean, better late than never. I mean, that's been kind of my foretoss of on certain shows, but well, awesome. I mean, Andy, did you have any more questions that you wanted to ask for today?
Just a couple more. I know Patrick and Donnie both work in the office with you. Just kind of curious what the dynamic is having two people who actually play on the team just kind of be regular coworkers and that you see every day, just like they're a regular white collar in that sort of.
So Pat works in is one of our account executives. So I don't work as directly with him. He's in a different space than I am, and that's one of those that him and Donnie, or at least him, since I see him a little less often, is make an effort to not talk as much about the games and stuff, just because I see him more as a coworker than I see him as a player.
Gotcha.
So that's that dynamic. And with Donnie, he very much I'd say, came out of his shell from when he first started in the office with us, and he fits right in with us. We, as I've mentioned, we're in a big room, and so we always joke that we have chaos hour at the end of every day. And sometimes that's instigated by Donnie, and sometimes that's instigated by the rest of us. We have a whiteboard we always write silly questions on. Some of them make it to, the questions that get asked of the players at the end of the game. Some of them just stay in our office. But I'd say it's a pretty good dynamic. He fits right in. One of our questions we had on that whiteboard is we did a who would make the best Prowler bracket at the start of March Madness. And Donnie was actually one of the final, made it to the final two people.
Nice.
I can't remember if he won, but he, I do feel he'd make, after being with him in the office, I think he'd make a solid Prowler if it ever came down to it.
I would think
he could fill in.
Yeah, I'm thinking Grennan in my head.
Yeah, Grennan be a good one, but if we were doing players, I think it would have gone very differently. But as office only, I think Donnie beat me out in that bracket. We were in the final four together, and he beat me out in the bracket on my side. So
yeah, you were just in the tough region. In another one, you might have.
You know what? I just couldn't make it, and that's okay. You know what? I've been mascot before, filled in for somebody. I'm fine not wearing, being the mascot.
So you're pretty much saying if we ever don't see you at the game, but Prowler's kind of acting differently in the corner, we know what's up.
Yeah.
Maybe if Prowler's a little shorter.
Okay, awesome. And not related to the team or anything. Nick and I are both animal lovers with multiple pets. We know that you've got a dog named Banjo. I was looking at the picture you had of him on the site. Is he like some sort of healer mix or a Catahoula maybe? Or
so he's a red healer Chihuahua mix.
Oh, wow.
Which is as chaotic as that definitely is. All of his pictures I take him at great angles. He's probably at tallest like shin height. Like he's slightly bigger than he's definitely bigger than your average Chihuahua, but smaller than your typical red healer. And yeah, he's my baby. I always say he's the light of my life. I rescued him. He was a Hurricane Harvey rescue, is what he came from. He came from Houston, and he's been with me for 4 years now. I even show y'all as I can. I have I don't know if it'll show up. I have a banjo tattoo on my arm with a little paw print in it. So that he's always with me. I always joke his full name, even though I definitely named him Banjo to start with. His full name is Ban Joseph Arnold Rosenbaum, because that's always great. His full title is Ban Joseph Arnold Rosenbaum, Prince of Wiggy Wags, Lord of Snuggles.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think he's got so much personality in such a little body, and definitely if I could bring him to a game, anything, I would love to. But yeah, Chihuahua Red Heeler mix. So chaotic.
Nice.
I mean, they do need to have. I mean, a lot of other sports teams do it. They need a pet night or a dog night where they can bring your pup with you.
I would say we're definitely always working on convincing Dickies that is something to let us do.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll take the victory that we got to do the dog halftime show at the start of the season. So baby steps.
That was, we won that game, but my wife's favorite part of that game was probably seeing the dog show at halftime.
I completely I agree. The one getting out on a little teeny tiny skateboard. Oh my goodness. Highlight.
So
that's play of the game right there.
Right. Book him for next year.
Definitely.
Well, that's awesome. No, I mean, this season has had a lot of fun games and fun halftime shows for sure. I think we talked about before, even like the Indigenous Heritage Night. Those halftimes are always really cool to watch, just because you get to learn more about where it came from. I think the other one that was kind of cool was the guy that juggled everything off of his chin.
The chin balancer?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's something you don't see every day for sure. But
yes. He came off the field and we asked him questions about like how he discovered that was something he could do. He was like, you just learn how to do things. It's like, that's not a casual thing you learn how to do.
He's just sitting on his porch and like looks at his like charcoal grill. I'm like, that could fit on my chin for.
I could bounce that. Yeah. Or some like really bad like bet between friends, like, oh hey, you see that bench over there? I bet you can't bounce that off your chin. He's like, yeah, I could do that. Well, awesome. Well, I mean, Abigail, thank you obviously again for coming on. Do you have any like final thoughts or shout outs that you wanted to add?
I think the only shout out is follow Panther City Lax on all their socials and come to our last regular season home game, April 21st. We're real excited, and there should be some good giveaways, and I really want to see everyone there.
Yeah, no, we're definitely excited, especially like you said, the push for the playoffs. I mean, get the chance to see them right before then would be amazing. Well, where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media or online?
I would say check me out on Twitter. That's where I'm most active for everyone. It's at Abby R. I think it's 6 R's on the end of that one. It varies for social media, but I'm pretty confident that one's 6 R's. And then, obviously, as I said before, follow Panther City Lax on Twitter, Instagram, and I think we have a TikTok that gets used occasionally. So check us out on TikTok and follow us on Facebook as well. Panther City deserves all the love.
That's indeed. Right. Yeah, see, just check them out everywhere, pretty much. Any social media you can find them at. Well, like I said, Abigail, thank you again for coming on today's show. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's show. Be sure to follow us as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are, of course, again, the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Andy.
And?
I'm Abigail.
And we'll see you all next time.
Awesome. Cheers, y'all.
Bye.